You can get your Super 7 Godzilla figures at BigBadToyStore. The link in the description.
Dragon Ball, horror, kaiju, and more. Steven's Toy Reviews.
Hey collectors, gonna be Steven here, and welcome to another Super 7 review. We all love our kaiju here, and I'm happy to say that this is actually going to be a winner from Super 7, despite its simplicity. We do have an Ultimates version of the Shogun Godzilla. They did do reaction versions of this one, way more than what one may expect, because you gotta get those repaints out there. But finally, we do have an Ultimates version, despite the fact that it was initially stated they probably may not do this. There is a glow-in-the-dark version as well, but I ain't touching that. I don't feel a need to get that one, because no thank you. Anyway, finally, we do have this in hand, and I think this is going to be really much so one of Super 7's strong points for what they can do. Retro figure tributes, and let's take a look to see whether or not it's going to be worth adding in your collection. I think it's fun. I think you may as well. This is very simple to cover in the looks department. Super 7 was able to get a hold of an actual Shogun Godzilla that was mostly intact to my understanding. They painted it white, they put dots on it, they 3D scanned it, and that's how they made the reaction. I don't have confirmation here for the Ultimates one, but I'm assuming it's going to be the same thing, because if you have the render, the CGI, the 3D, whatever you want to call it, file, and you can make a small one, why wouldn't you do that to make the bigger one that's going to be quote-unquote in scale with your Ultimates, and do the same thing? So in terms of the sculpt, this is basically just going to be a minimized version of the Shogun figure that we all know, not everybody loves, and it's straightforward. So it's nice. It's an avocado figure. You know what you got, the tongue print for the flame effect. It doesn't go all the way back to the end of the piece, but I don't have an original Shogun figure to say whether or not that's going to be accurate. I will say that mine out of the box had a couple of small paint chips on the nails, which it's not all that great. And from what I've seen from the community, the actual eyes, which do have indents for them, I've seen a few of these figures, and only like one or two had some paint that bled out. Not that big of a deal, but if you are looking to pick this up, something that is to be kept in mind, despite the fact that though mine is fine, you may get one that has varying quality control. Suffice to say, it's pretty straightforward. This figure looks like the Shogun Godzilla. Not a lot to say. I just needed to talk about this for time to get everything on the screen. Articulation is pretty straightforward for this one. We do have a swivel at the neck so we can spin the head around. We do also have a lever on the back of the head, which makes the tongue go out. Pretty cool. Swivels at the shoulders so we could spin Godzilla's arms around. And in the box, this was my experience. It may be true for others. It may actually be true production-wide. The wrist does fire out. And the way that it is packaged in the box is it's actually packaged upside down. The wrists, both of them left and right, have swivels so you can spin them. So keep that in mind if your wrist for your right one is upside down. We'll talk about how it fires off in a second. We do have swivels at the hips as well, and then we do have a tail swivel. So just watch what's going on the screen for the different range of movements for all the different points of articulation. Now, when it comes to firing off that fist, it is a little tricky on my particular unit. Sometimes it doesn't want to fire, so I keep hitting it, and then when I'm looking at it, I'm like, huh, what is it? And then it hits me right in the face. So, hey, it is what it is. I will say that this does have some range on it, and for a full 12-ounce can of soda, may have had an accident where it knocked it over. So this not only can go a pretty good distance away, it also packs a punch. It's pretty good. Kudos to Super 7 for that. I'm only hoping that this won't break easily in the future, but only time will tell. To make things easier for a size comparison on you and myself, here's going to be Wave 2 of the Toho Ultimates alongside the Shogun Godzilla. So this way you can just compare them all because they all dropped at the same time, despite the fact that they wanted to make it easier on the customer's wallets and only limit the figures to 2 per wave. Interesting. So yes, here you go. Now, we all know that we do have Burning Godzilla here and Mecha Godzilla or Super Mecha Godzilla, and I do know that some folks were looking to have these as replacements or stand-ins for SH Monster Arts or other figures in the 6-inch scale alongside the Shogun as well. Keep in mind, these are 8-inch scale figures. They will not fit in with anything in the 6-inch scale. And I also don't have some of the corresponding figures along with me. At this time, I can't find them, so yeah. So buy now, skip, or wait for a deal. I do have to say that I think this is really cool, and this is really where Super 7 strides. Admittedly, this was right down the middle and a super safe thing to do because they already had the sculpt available. They knew exactly what they could do here. The most difficult thing was actually getting a more so accurate vintage trigger for the tongue to work, the fire breath, and then getting the actual spring-loaded fist to fire off. Those were probably the only two hurdles there. Otherwise, I mean, yeah, $55. Solid, not a big deal. If you are a fan of this retro type stuff, this is obviously an easy purchase. It unfortunately doesn't go with anything, so hopefully they will do a Shogun Rodan and even make up their own Shogun and Anguirus. They did come up with a Shogun Mechagodzilla. Hopefully we'll see an Ultimates. I'm not buying their extremely overpriced big one, so thank you. Yeah, this is neat. It's a novelty. It goes well with the history of your Godzilla stuff. If you're interested, it's simple and straightforward. Go ahead and pick it up.